And I'm going to start by saying that this is a very difficult and emotive subject to talk about. And I know where it should come in. In an ideal world, you know, your wishes should be captured at the beginning of your journey. But sometimes people are reluctant to approach that because it's what I wanted to talk to about when I had a care team in place. I wanted to talk about it because I really was concerned about the way that I was going to leave this life, as much as the life I was leading. I've got somebody who's there to make sure this happens, and it's down to choice, because I think it's a burden sometimes that you can't put on the nearest and dearest, because my stepbrother loves me and he wouldn't pull the plug for love nor money, not because he wants me to suffer, but because he loves me. But I think that the choice should be given when you're in a position to make the choice, not when you're not. And I'm not going to delve into capacity because it's a whole nother argument. But I think the question should be there and should be written into a care plan. As well as all the things to give you a good life, there should be all the things that will give you a nice goodbye. And let's call it that, a nice goodbye. If you don't like the word death and dying, and a lot of people don't, a nice goodbye. I don't want to be in a side room, doubly incontinent, hanging on for dear life, with people I really cared about not able to come and see me. I want to die where I live. I want to die surrounded by the people, you know, that's my wishes. I'm not afraid to die. I'm not. I don't want to, but I'm not afraid of it. But I am terrified of the way I might die.
Well, I'm slightly different, Nigel. I've done my advance directive, which actually I put somewhere safe I can't find. But there you are, I'll have to do another one. But I saw so much discussion about this on social media and the internet, and how the people that are left behind are the ones that have the major problem, and the guilt sometimes of assuming they're doing their best and then not realizing that they're not doing their best, they're doing what they want to do and maybe not what the person wanted. And a lot of guilt is put onto people, you know, about songs and the way that you're buried or cremated, and people shouldn't have that guilt. You know, this conversation needs to be promoted in schools, and you know, there's two things certain in life: paying taxes and dying. We don't want to talk about either. You know, and we need to get rid of this stigma about dying. We all die. You know, the moment you're born, you're getting ready to die. But going back to it, having the conversation that we had after my emphysema diagnosis, because that's a chronic illness. We actually thought I'd be dead by now, but hard luck, Jane.
I'm a good carer, really.
Yeah, when we first had the conversation, we didn't realise how little we knew about what we wanted at end of life. Now, I don't want to be surrounded by family and friends. You know, I want a nice, quiet, you know, slip away job. I don't want to die at home, because I don't want that room to be where Chris died or Dad died. You know, because I know what people are like. It'll either become a shrine or it'll become the room that no one wants to use. And I don't want that. You know, shove me in a wheelie bin if you have to, but get me out the house.
But this leads into a point that was made earlier about where should someone die. Now, Chris says he doesn't want to die at home, but what is his home? Is he referring to the house where we live as a family? Is he referring to a place where he may be a resident towards his end of life? Because with dementia, it's likely he'll go into a care home. Or is it some other place? Now, when Chris says he doesn't want to die at home, he doesn't want to die in the family home. If he's a resident in nursing care, leave him there. At his last hours, don't lift him up and rush him to hospital. That is not, none of us would want that disruption at such a poignant time in our lives. But for Chris, when he says he doesn't want to die at home, that is not his place of residence, it's the family home. So it's really important to tease out the nuances that people mean by the language we use, but whilst they're still able to articulate exactly what it is that they mean.
Yeah.
Jane has really, I think, underlined what I feel really. I want to die at home, but I know that home may not be here. Home will be wherever I am. It might be a care home. It might even be a hospital room. But if I'm happy there and it feels like home, you know, that's where I would be happiest to slip away, really. I, unlike Chris, would like my family around me, even though I may not know that they're there. I've gone through all sorts of issues with regards to death. If I could be entirely honest, when I was first diagnosed, I wanted to decide myself when I would die. And I wanted to die with some dignity, still knowing who I was, where I was, and not being a burden to my family. Now, I'm being entirely honest here. I went to some very dark places. I've Googled Dignitas many years ago, when I was first diagnosed, and I think it's something which a lot of people do. And I think my dad had a terrible death, and I wouldn't want to have a death like that. This was over 20 years ago, and I sat with my father while he died. I'm just so pleased my mother wasn't there, because I don't think she would have been able to cope with it. So my dad didn't have a good death. Since I've gone on my journey, my dementia journey, my attitude has changed. As Nigel says, we can live well with dementia. We learn that we can live well with dementia, but we can die well too. I see death as a journey. I'm a Buddhist, and I don't see death as the end. I see death as the beginning of probably one of the greatest adventures that we'll ever have. It's not an end, and it's not a faith issue, although I respect people who have those beliefs.
I was listening with great interest there, because as an unpaid carer over the years, I've studied kind of end of life in great detail, both in sort of academia and in support networks, because I really, it kind of dawned on me as an unpaid carer that, do you know what, I've been unpaid carer for 30 years, and the one thing I was fantastic at offering care and support, but the one thing I was really afraid of was dealing with death of other people. So I decided to kind of give myself a push, and talk and approach it as much as I could. So I'm going to kind of bring that forward to today and why it's kind of so important. So over the last 8 months, I've lost 7 family members, and I've supported 4 of those through their end of life. Now, it's only when, and this is why we need to talk about after it's happened and why it's so relevant to conversations, is that it's only when you've been through that experience that you think, gosh, I'm so glad we put those things in place and did that, because there is nothing else after that. It's pretty much I think, Chris, you mentioned about, families thinking, I wish we'd done that. We should have done that. Why didn't we do that? There's no turning back. So end of life is it's a process that you either do there and then, because it will always be too late. It's the dying well is about the person and about you. So if a person dies well, then the people around them necessarily kind of sort of not live better, because you're grieving, you're bereaving, but actually that dying well means that we can move forward with our lives and not focus on something that can impact us for our lives and the way we look at dying as well.
You never know when this is going to happen. If we do have the privilege of knowing it's imminent, let's get it right. We do it only once.